this concept that people don't understand that when they did the vote, we weren't ready to just go.
I don't
You
think.
know, do we put something in about that, and how do we do that if we did?
Maybe just get a list of how the construction process works here. That you have to go, you have something to go show the people here, and the approximate cost that we got and how it proceeds from there. Step one, step two,
You know what?
You gave
make
me,
it,
Or do
little
we
baby
wait-
steps so they understand. Then nothing happens till they approved it, for us
it's
to
like
go
what we
forward.
were talking, what you were telling me.
Right, so you got it written up there already, so I need to.
Or
make
do we
copies.
wait, and do it, because we're gonna try and do this a little more often, not necessarily anything official,
Right.
a little more, wait till the next time and say, and make a focal point of this situation. You know, project began when whatever, and once the board community approved, whatever, and then here's where we went and how we got to where we are now. Without going into all of this
All
detail,
of it,
just give,
because it's a lot.
right, I'm just saying, because,
But people really don't understand it. You know it, you lived it. I didn't know it. I had no clue. And most of the people around me don't have a clue.
About what?
That when we approved it,
Oh,
it wasn't a done deal. We didn't know.
oh, okay.
And you knew, I didn't know. So you're talking about minutia, I think it's, I know for me, what we talked about just now is real important
Okay.
to convey. Because this is what people don't understand, what is taking so long.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a TV segment that basically has you sitting with me in my office, asking me the question. And then I can go through all those
I
things with
would
you.
love it.
That may be the way to go. Because to put it in writing, no one is gonna read it. You could see she's already got a whole page, and we only touched the tip of the iceberg of like 4
I
topics. The
said, what
problems
can I
with
go back
zoning,
to?
the problems with finding the existing utilities because the county didn't have anything. I mean, it just goes on and on. Is it unusual? No. It takes a year sometime to get permits for something of this magnitude. Because we're asking them to allow us to put an entirely different structure here with different capacity, different traffic flow, different fire, safety things, all kinds of things. So maybe we do it that way instead of here. Because my feeling is if we just do it this way, they're not gonna read it and they're gonna be
I think,
completely
it's
overwhelmed.
worth
Okay,
it.
but
I
can I
know,
make a suggestion?
Yes.
Before you send out an email to everybody, make sure that every community has voice.
yeah.
what do you?
Well, that's,
On channel
so you're talking about the reoccurring problem with
It's been
Channel
fixed.
95. It has been fixed, we don't know if it's a permanent fix.
Oh.
I mean, the reality is, when we were at the Corsica board meeting the other day, it's laughable. This system of the TV channel has not worked since before I even got here, and that's 3 years ago. There are repetitive areas, for whatever reason, that seem to occur in Corsica, a little bit of Terra Nova, some of Sienna Lakes, where certain houses don't get it. I will tell you, it is on every employee's Outlook calendar every day to check to make sure it's working. In the house in the back they were working on, it's on blaring all day. I am tired of hearing me on the TV. Lynthia has phone numbers of people in each community, that the minute there's a problem, she'll call. Hi, Andrea, is there a problem here?
Yeah, she
Santos,
calls me.
how many times do we call you? We call
She
you.
called me too.
So we are aware, it's not that the whole thing is down, it's certain areas. Comcast naturally points the finger at the company that does the service for us and vice versa. Comcast was here last week, Cynthia, or the week before, last week, and they did identify a whole bunch of high definition cables that needed to be replaced because they were burned up or whatever. So we've replaced those, so we're hoping that it works better now. So we're doing the best we can with it, and we just need people to tell us when it's down. If it's down, we respond to it as quickly as possible. So I think the way to address that question is really for us to do a Q&A, because again, if you have the question, you're not
And not
alone.
to have the tree disease on the same time, and not to have the,
So are you suggesting that instead of a written document or an email blast? or
Not
something?
all
No,
together,
no.
this still needs to go out, but to go into this last topic about, we thought when we gave you the vote of confidence, yes, and we had plans and everything ready to go and get a permit and build it.
And that's a bit easier to discuss than it is to try to write.
Exactly,
down.
because that's so far from what we had at that point in time, because we weren't gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars putting it together, and it takes 10 months or a year to put it together.
I think that,
That accounts for the year.
I think that's pretty effective.
Right, and we're not really, if I had to count how far behind schedule we are, I'd say maybe 3 months. And the 3 months is really attributable.
Nobody.
Right, the 3 months is really attributable to all that nonsense with the irrigation and stuff, because nothing could move, they wouldn't even accept the applications until we fixed that, and we're like, how would anybody know that?
Okay.
The other question I think we need to address that really nobody has asked, but I'm sure they ask it in the pool, is why did we close down February 27th if we weren't ready to start? Because here we are, it's been closed. Granted, it's closed, the majority reason because of COVID, because everything stopped for that, and you couldn't be here in the building even if we hadn't closed. But what we were given at the time by the project team was that in 2 or 3 months' time, we will be ready to put the shovels in the ground, because by then we'll have the GMP, we'll have the contract, and you need that time to close to liquidate what's in the building and get the stuff out of here that you need to save. And that's what I was trying to show in that video when we're wrapping things and taking them down. Not that we're saving money by using used drapes, which is obscene, but that's what's been going on. We still would have had to close. No one knew COVID was gonna come.
Yeah.
Nobody knew the contract changes were gonna get all screwed up because of this.
Yeah.
You know, so the maximum we are out is probably 3 months from where we
So
were.
let me just ask you a question.
Yes,
There's an elevator there.
yes.
Can we use that elevator again?
We thought we could originally, but it turns out that the code does not allow us to use that elevator because the standards are new. So that thing's been used, has no resale value except for scrap because it doesn't meet the current code. Again, who would have known that?
But I don't even know if it was ever used.
Where is the elevator?
There's an elevator in this corner behind the stage because you have to have handicap access if somebody needs to get on the stage. Sounds a little bit mashugana to me, but you have to have it.
Yeah.
So we originally were just gonna take it from there and move it over here, already been shut down by the council.
Piano.
Yeah, well, we use it to move the piano up and down, but, so things like that come up that you have to deal with. Nobody knew that that was gonna be a change. Is it significant to tell you the truth? Not really.
Yeah. No, but I was just wondering, because in all the years that I'm here, I don't know if I saw anybody use it or.
That's it. It's not.
It's hidden, you don't even know.
I know where it is,
Yeah.
because I've been behind there, but.
I think most people don't even know there's an elevator there.
Yeah, they don't.
All right, do you want to go on to the additional items?
Okay, so we had additional items for discussion.
How do you end up with this?
We finished?
Are you gonna still say it's a line item?
No.
Is that bad?
Yes. So we had some additional items on the agenda to talk about if the group of presidents here felt it was necessary to talk about. The first one that comes up are the speed bumps. So I'm assuming everybody wants to talk about the speed bumps.
This is humps.
Humps.
It's humps, they are humps, they
Just
have
when the
bumps.
humps are coming.
It's like the running joke.
Going out.
So I wanna, since people are listening to this, rather than me tell everybody on an individual basis, the entire board, and those of you that come to board meetings for however many years we've been discussing this, nobody wanted stop signs. Nobody wanted speed humps, bumps, whatever you wanna call them, because the thought is we've lived without them for years, it's a nice drive, and yes, there's a couple of morons that speed like the speed demons down there, but live and be well. When you're on the board, you have a fiduciary responsibility to preserve the assets of the association. You'd say, well, what does that have to do with speed bumps? Well, over time, we started to have more traffic accidents here in the community. The reason for the accidents may have nothing to do with speed bumps, it may have nothing to do with anything. It could just be because we're all 20 years older than when you moved in here, and so some of you don't know how to drive anymore, some people are falling asleep and hitting trees, there's all kinds of things. What happens, however, is every time there's an accident, there's a potential for a lawsuit. So, for example, if you have a wrongful death lawsuit because somebody ran an intersection and there was not a stop sign or anything there, what would happen is, after some of these happen, the insurance company can come back to you and say, what did you do as a board as these things were happening to mitigate the possibility of this happening in the future? If you did nothing, well then guess what? We're not paying this claim and we're not gonna cover you. Which means now the next one comes along, and when we have to pay out the claim, it's a special assessment to every homeowner in the place. So no board member in their right mind is gonna say we can just sit here and do nothing while we continue to have traffic accidents. Whether or not they resulted in fatalities doesn't really matter. Whether or not they were on Venetian Isles Boulevard or a side street doesn't really matter, but there's a pattern that there were more traffic accidents happening. So, you talk this over with your insurer, you talk it over with your lawyer, you say, how do we do this and best protect the community? Well, the first thing is, the road is a private road, it is not a public road. So, you can add stop signs without going through all the hoops that you would have to if it was Lyons Boulevard. The board, though, went the extra mile and made sure all those signs were put into the Department of Transportation standards, because the other thought was that we would bring policemen in here to enforce the rules of the road in here since people were behaving so badly. In order to do that, you've got to put in everything to the standards as if it were out on Lyons Road or any other road, or else they can't come in and give tickets. We haven't done that yet. Ad nauseum, we had conversations about the fact that people were running the stop signs and they were really not effective. Speed bumps are not designed to make people stop. They're designed to slow traffic. The reality is, if I wanted to stop the slowing traffic on Venetian Isles Boulevard, I would not put these speed humps in where they're located. They'd be in other places, or there's other ways to deal with that. We've reached out to some of the people that do this for a living in the community, and they all confirm that's not what you would use these humps for. However, in dealing with the companies that do the paving and everything of the roads, this is a common solution to make people stop because they don't want to rip out their car, the bottom of their car. So we put in speed humps. The original speed humps are not quite what we thought we were going to get. The newer ones that are now being installed are more in line with what we thought we were going to get. They are all removable, they're all reusable, so the money that's been spent on them is not wasted because we can use them someplace else. Because eventually on VI Boulevard, when we rework the road, we will come up with a different solution. One of those solutions is a thing called a speed table, like what is in Canyons Shopping Center and other communities, where the entire intersection would be a raised area so that you literally have to slow down. Your eye is not going to let you not slow down to do that. That would alleviate speed bumps and things of that nature, but it's very costly. And it should be done when we rip out the road, which is going to be in the next year anyway, when we do this construction. This was all a temporary measure to make sure that we keep our insurance coverage, we try to slow people down, we try to prevent accidents. And I will tell you, there has not been a single traffic accident on VI Boulevard, even with all this confusion. I mean, people are saying, well, now there's a four-way stop, the main road should have the right of way. Of course it could, but if you pull up to a four-way stop, that rules out the road. You know how it works, folks. You do it everywhere else. So is it right? It doesn't have to be right. It had to be an action that a reasonable person would take to mitigate the damage that was happening. And just so that you do know, we can say at this point, there was a lawsuit against the association for a wrongful death claim that has been settled. That's all we're going to say about it. But this was not something where the board just sat around and said, let's come up with how to make everybody's life miserable, because you know what? We have to drive over these things on the golf carts, and every board member has to drive over them with their cars. It's not pleasant. So there had to be a logical reason. This was not a shot in the dark to make everybody's life miserable. So that's where we're at. The current ones are being replaced to the rubber ones.
When?
That will probably be fitted, it should happen in the next 2 weeks. What happened is we were contracting to, we put in the one test one, and then we said, okay, let's do the others because this is well received and it's much less impactful on each car. Then it came to our attention that the way they are spaced allows somebody to kind of maneuver over this way and go over the one side. So we went back and we said to them, okay, design one now, so that can't happen anymore. That's what we're getting, it's on its way. Have you signed the proposal yet, or did you not get it?
This was waiting for the.
Okay, so it's probably back with David, but that's in the works to get it done, which means in 2 weeks' time, all those other speed humps, bumps, whatever you wanna call them, the yellow ones will be out, and the new rubber ones will be in, and they will only be there until we redo the roads. Then at that point, then everything's up to
Are
code.
you
That's the
keeping
same
it
as-
at the stop signs or 40 feet before?
No, they're staying by the stop signs, is that what we had agreed on?
What's that?
They're staying where they are at the stop signs, they're not going 40 feet before.
The problem was, the actual recommendation would be further back. The problem was, when I spoke to the guys, when they first installed the yellow ones, he explained it should be further back. No problem. I said to him, my concern, and our concern is that if we move them back to where he said you usually would put them, as soon as they got over the bump, they just blow right through the stop sign. And that was, so I said, put it by the stop sign, okay? Because in the future, not whatever, we're gonna do something totally different. So right now, it still forces them to slow down, okay? They may go through the stop sign, but they're still, because if they blow through it, they're gonna bounce, all right? But they haven't installed, obviously, the new ones. We could move them back if we want, but that was the main reason why they're where they are now, instead of, let's say, 7 or 8 feet further back. Because as soon as the back wheels would have come over the bump, they would have blown right through the stop sign. Okay. Now, of course, they do slow down a lot because they got to go over and down. So we were covering to eliminate that bounce that people were complaining about, in fairness or whatever. So, but that's why. So we still have an opportunity to, when I say change it, we could move it a little further back. And we're going to leave the one that's there now where it is. I'm not going to pull it up again to move it further back. But if they decide, if the board wants to consider moving it further back from the stop sign, certainly we can do that.
Are they gonna be the same as that particular
Yes.
bump, or the same spacing,
Not the same spacing.
different spacing?
Different spacing.
Will it feel
One
But the same
wall,
style.
But the same style.
Right,
so
and that one, but the one that's there now will just stay the way it is?
Yeah.
that remains to be seen. I'm trying to negotiate to get them to change that
Change
on
that
their
to the
dime,
same
so
one.
everything's at least consistent.
Okay, so the speed humps now slow you down, but nobody is stopping for the stop signs, because now you just roll over the bumps. So the stop signs become you.
No, don't say
All
that.
right, I see people
It-
stopping. I'm
It's
just
a
saying
hard
is-
thing to
Well,
say
with
because
these yellow things,
it's not everybody.
if you slow down enough,
But-
you're gonna go backwards in your car when you
Right,
stop.
but my point being that the stop sign really, in my estimate, isn't even necessary anymore.
So the thought process with that, because you may very well be right, if we redesign the road, my feeling, and again, it's just my opinion, is that what will happen is they will recommend that we put the speed tables in at the intersections, which will cause the natural change. And at that point, you will only need the stop signs on the side streets, not on the main drive.
Which is
And
what
that
I,
will then make the main drive back to being the right of way, and people, you know,
which is what I think